welcome to Ostriv. This is a program that I purchased just a few days ago, and this is my first attempt at building a village. Ostriv is a Ukrainian village simulator, a bit like Banished in concept, but with economics and some more complex agricultural arrangements than Banished had. So I thought I'd just record this video. This is the first spring of my new village, so I thought I'd just record it for prosperity. This isn't a walkthrough or a tutorial or anything like that. This is just me recording my village and its first spring. It's just coming up to the end of February. As you can see, some of the ladies and the children are they've already changed into their summer clothes, which is probably a little bit premature. The men seem to be still in their winter coats, but the women can't wait to get their summer dresses out, so some of them are wandering around. The general concept for the village design is quite fluid. I've been watching Skystorm's videos, and he's very sort of rigid with his town planning, nice straight roads and blocks of cottages and things. My village has sort of tended to evolve with cottages and buildings being fitted in wherever there was a gap. So you haven't got many straight streets in my village and a lot of wasted space. But as a general concept, I'm trying to stick to the idea that there will be a small group of cottages. So you can see there's 7 cottages, or there will be once that new one's built. And at the end of the street, there's a well, some benches, and at the other end of the street, there's another well. So people don't have far to walk for their water. And the benches seem to be quite important, because I've noticed that the villagers, they'll go back to their homes and they'll have something to eat or get warm or whatever, and then they'll come out again, and before they go back to work they like to sit on a bench and rest. So having benches close by means they don't have far to walk to reach a bench and sit down. And I think they must sit on the benches until they get assigned a new task by the task scheduler of the game. So it's quite important to have those benches there. I thought they were just decorative at first, and then I realized that actually it did make a difference. This is the farm. I'm using a 6-field crop rotation, which I've based on Catherine of Sky's videos, which is another set of videos I can really recommend. The rotation is wheat, potatoes, fallow, sunflower, hemp and fallow. So that's the rotation. So each field goes through 2 crops, then it has a rest, then 2 more crops, then it has a rest. And you can see 3 of the ladies have changed back into their winter clothing, must have got cold again, sitting on a bench there. This is my first attempt at trying to attract new villagers. All the villagers in the village have got a house. This is a spare house that I'm just building here at the end of the street, at the end of the road, and hopefully we'll get a new family move in there, which will increase the population of the town. Down by the river, you can see a little pier there. There's also, I'm going to build a boathouse and a fishery this summer, and hopefully we'll start to supplement our diet with some fish. You can see two of the men working on the new cottage. One of the odd aspects of Ostriv is that there are certain jobs which can only be done by men, which sounds a bit sexist. You actually can't put women in certain jobs. Construction is one of them. Milling is another. The windmill can only be occupied by men, worked by men. But others, such as the granary, you can choose whether to have men, women, or both working in them. So what I've tended to do is where there's an option to have women working somewhere, I've literally switched the men out. So only women can work in those industries. So, and that sort of balances out the employment situation, because there are no jobs naturally in the game that can only be done by women. Men can do, I think, more or less anything, but women can't. So to balance out the employment situation, I've inhibited or prohibited men from doing certain things where women can work, so that I've tried to balance out the job prospects for everybody. Um, So the granary and the warehouse are women only in my village. The sawmill, you can't employ women in there, so that's men only. Construction is men only. The farm workers, I've restricted to women only. You're not allowed to have any men working on the farm, apart from the farm manager, who happens to be a man in my village. Um, yeah, so a bit of an odd concept, but this is meant to be the 18th century, so I'm assuming that there were restrictions on sex of employees. This is the food stall. You can see the food stall there. I've already built it, and that's right next to the well. There's a guy there getting some water now, and you can see the men and women sitting around waiting for something to do. That seems to be common behaviour. And the idea is that you've got one central location where all the people in these cottages around can collect water, sit and wait for work, and go and buy food and firewood. Um, and my intention is to sort of create those small community centres, if you like, amongst every group of houses. So you've got a group of 8 houses there, and in the centre, the well, seating area, and the food stall. So minimum walking required to actually get your household necessities, as it were. You can see there's some children wandering around. The snow's almost gone now, so we're getting close to spring. Yeah, the men have just changed into their summer clothes now. And that woman's just got up and she's wandered off. She's obviously got some work, and it's probably time to start sowing seeds in the fields. There she is. Yeah, so she's actually going to the granary. As I explained, the granary, I've set that up so it's women only. Men can't get jobs in the granary, or shouldn't be able to. Now, what I'm waiting for now is for the villagers to start sowing the fields. Is this woman going to sow some fields? Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. She's going to the farm. So she's going to the farm. She's going to pick up some seeds, and hopefully, she's going to go and start sowing that first field, which is the wheat field. And there you can see the rotation. It's all set up, and there is a farm manager who looks after that rotation and makes sure that everybody knows what to sow. And this is me now basically going around the village, and I'm telling everybody to stop their normal jobs. I'm reducing the number of jobs in other industries. So that's the foresters just being taken out of work. And the idea is that all these people will then go and work as labourers on the farm, There you can see the warehouse. Did you see that was all women in the warehouse? That's the blacksmith. So they will eventually all make their way round to the farm now and help the young lady who's already sowing the wheat field. You can see her walking backwards and forwards, sowing seeds in the wheat field. Got a chap going to the windmill there, not quite sure what they're doing. We've got 2 labourers now working on the farm, 2 females. What I haven't done yet is pause all the building construction, which would probably be a good idea. I think I'll do that in a minute. And this is something I've noticed, certainly with Catherine of Sky's videos, and I think Skystorm does the same thing, is this sort of closing down of all the other work in the village and construction work and everything. So it frees up the population to do this really important job of getting the seeds sown in the fields. We've got 3 people now assigned to seed sowing. And you can see the little blue bars on. If you look on the field list, you can see that the wheat field's sort of about 20% done, I should think. Still got a lot of people that haven't actually started helping out. But then I haven't closed. Why haven't I closed down the construction? I'm sure. Certainly in subsequent years, I've as a routine, I've just paused all the construction work in the spring and in the autumn when the harvest needs to be gathered up. I'll take a few more people off the granary work now. We've got 4 people now helping. Yeah, looking at this now, I've realised that I made a big mistake because by in subsequent years, I've just paused all the housing. I'm only just getting around to pausing it now. Well, I think I'm letting the cottage carry on. Yeah, if you don't pause the construction work, then as you free up labour from other industries in the village, instead of going to help in the fields, they tend to wander off and start constructing buildings instead. Oh, we've got 7 people now working in the fields. Oh, sorry, 6 people. 6 people plus the farm manager. The other thing I tend to do now is I'll actually recruit 5 workers at the beginning of the sowing season and at the beginning of autumn, which seems to draw people in faster, I've noticed. But we've got a few people out there now. Catherine's really good at this. She gets nearly 2 whole rows of labourers working on her field. They've started, there's a chap there starting to sow the second field now. But we are still building that extra cottage. And I must have made a conscious decision to carry on building that. Perhaps I hoped that the extra family would come in time to help with the sowing, but I I think they're going to be a bit late. Now, what you can see me doing here, I'm checking the population statistics, and I do this repeatedly because I'm looking for villagers who haven't got jobs, basically. So I'm looking at how many villagers are employed, male and female, and then comparing it to the village population to see how many spare people we've got wandering around. And I'm obviously a bit puzzled because they're not going to work on the farm, and that's obviously a concern at this point. There all seem to be a few people who don't take up jobs, and I'm not quite sure why. Yeah, you see, we've got three labourers working on that cottage who could be helping with the fields, really. What you can see at this point is that I actually paused the work on the new cottage to try and force those three extra labourers to work on the farm, and they're taking their carts back now and are about to change jobs. But we're doing all right. We're on the second field, which is the potato field there. So we've only got 3 more fields to go. Obviously, you don't need to sow seeds in the fallow fields because they're just being left. But we are back down now to only 3 labourers, which people are obviously getting fed up of sowing and wandering off. There you can see that I haven't actually taken the men off the workers, the farm workers, but there's the options to click between men and women employees. Just going around making sure there's nobody. I've taken everybody out of employment elsewhere. As I say, this is my first ever spring in the village, so I'm learning as I go along, and I can see now, just watching the video, that I'm making mistakes. I should have closed down all of the construction. I've actually closed all the construction down now, but we're still not getting everybody working in the fields. I think I was probably getting a little bit nervous at this point that I wasn't going to get all the fields. So 3 of the men currently working on the potato field, which is the second field in the rotation. So I've still got the sunflower and the hemp fields to sow. Despite taking everybody off work and pausing all the construction, I've still not got everybody working in the fields. The labour limit's 20, so there's no reason why they shouldn't be working in the fields. I can only assume they've just gone home for some reason. Oh, we've got 4 now. As you can see, I'm just going around male or female. So I only restrict full-time employment to male or female. Just try and balance the full-time employment. Yeah, they're all working on the potato field now, and it looks like they're about halfway through. It's mid-March, so we've still got some time. Yeah, 5 labourers now. So this, it looks like they're starting to take up the labouring jobs now. Oh yeah, we're getting 6 now. So the impression I'm getting is that there's a sort of a periodic rest period where everybody wanders back to their houses, has something to eat, has a sleep, has a rest, and then they go and seek employment somewhere else. So They've all just suddenly started picking up on the labouring jobs in the farm. This is, you can see here, this is the potato field and the wheat field. The potato field's almost sown. That's a fallow field, that nothing there, another fallow field, but we've not sown anything in hemp or sunflowers yet. But we have at least now got quite a few labourers um, coming forward to help with the sowing. Right, they're starting on the sunflower field now. We've got 3 people working on the sunflower field. The wheat field definitely completely sown and is actually starting to grow. The potato field almost sown. The sunflower, we just started the sunflower field, and we've still got the hemp field to do. Yeah, they just left one chap to finish off the potato field by the looks of it. And we're still only halfway through March, so yeah, I think we've got plenty of time. But I was panicking there for a minute, I must admit. Oh yeah, we've got a lot more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Everybody's turned out now, so we should get it done easily. So sort of last minute spurt to get the job done before the end of the month. Yeah, potatoes almost done. He's just doing the last few rows. Still not started on the hemp field, but we're about halfway through the sunflower field now, and we've got lots of people working on that. Two villagers are now in the hemp field sowing the hemp seeds. Potato field's done. A lot of people working in that sunflower field, but it doesn't seem to be. You can see the cycles of it goes sowing, growing, ripening, and then harvesting are the phases in each field. So you can always click on a field and find out sort of at what stage in its cycle it is. There seem to be a lot of people assigned to labouring now, but not many people in the field. So I don't know what the rest of them are doing. I think they're all in the farmhouse having a party or something. Well, some of them are going back to the village. They've obviously had enough. Oh yeah, the number of labourers has dropped again. So they've obviously decided to go off and they've had enough sowing seeds for the time being. And there's no other work available in the village, so if they don't work in these fields, they're not getting any money. So they've obviously just decided they've had enough and they're going to go and have a rest. Got 10 now. 9. Yeah, they're gradually wandering off. Yeah, potato field sown. The sunflower field sown, and we're about a third of the way through the hemp field. So we'll get it done before the end of the month, which is the main thing. It looks like the work scheduler's already decided it's got enough labourers to finish off this last field, and it's sort of cutting down on the workforce. Halfway through now on the hemp field, nearly finished. Yeah, we're down to 4 now, 4 labourers. So they've laid off all the rest of the labourers at the farm. The farm manager has. I mean, I could start putting people back to work elsewhere now, because I think we'll get this done. But I'll just let it carry on to the end. And then we'll probably start work on that cottage again, get some more people in. I'm quite curious as to at what point this game becomes sort of self-managing, you know, in terms of not having to micromanage the movement of employment. But every video I've seen so far, the people have still been sort of switching jobs on and off in order to move employees around. Okay, so that's the hemp field done. So that's all the seed sown now. We're ready to go. It's all growing. Well, the wheat field certainly is showing some growth already. We're down to 2 labourers. And at this point, I probably would start opening up the other employment options so that these people can get back to work in other areas. So that, I think, is the end of the sowing season as far as this village is concerned. Just got to wait for the fields to ripen. Yeah, I'm starting to put workers back into the various industries. So I've got some people working the sawmill again, put the guy back on the thatching, put the blacksmith back to work. And yeah, we're going to carry on working on that cottage and on the boathouse and the fishery there by the river. I haven't put anybody in the granary, but there's nothing in the granary, so we don't really need workers in there at the moment. I'll put somebody in the mill. I'm not quite sure why, because we haven't got any flour to mill, as far as I'm aware. No, there's nothing in the granary, so we don't really need anybody working there. I'll put somebody in there anyway. Okay, fair enough. Just checking the population. Unemployment is 55% at the moment. There's 21 open vacancies and only 18 adults in the village. So in theory, there's only three adults without jobs. Why is it 55%? Why am I getting my maths wrong? Woman there going into the sawmill. She's obviously picking up some firewood. I don't think. Yeah, they're carrying on work on the cottage there. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I've put anyone to work on the market stall. There's not much to sell at the moment, but they could be selling firewood. Just putting the walls up on the cottage. This is quite a leisurely game. I mean, things move quite slowly. What you'll notice in most of the videos is that the YouTuber will speed up the game, so it's going at a fast pace. But I prefer to actually keep it at the normal pace if I can, and just sort of take it at a leisurely stride. It's quite nice watching the sort of activities anyway, and just following people around in the village. What would be nice is a sort of first person camera. I think Forest Village has got that, where you can actually select a villager and literally wander around the village, seeing through their eyes, as it were. Banished didn't have that, and neither does this, but it's a nice touch. I quite like it. I play Railway Empires as well, and I very often post what I call riding the footplate videos, where you just follow a train through the network that you've built. It's quite a nice thing to do. Looks like everybody's going home for lunch. It's almost the end of March now. Just checking the fields. You can see the growth is starting to go up now. So the crops are growing now in the fields. And at a certain point in the year, you begin to get that ripeness bar start to rise. And then once that gets to a certain level, the villagers start harvesting the crops. You see, you've got quite a bit of firewood. Firewood always tended to be a problem in Banished. You have to keep it going all the while, because the houses in Banished seem to consume a lot of firewood. I'm just sort of watching the villagers wandering around. You can see them going into their houses, and then, as I say, they seem to wander out, and then they come and sit on a bench for a little while. There does seem to be a pattern to it, but I haven't sort of worked it out completely yet. She's gone to sit on the bench. So just come out of a house, sat on the bench, and then she gets up and goes off and does something. Sometimes wonder what would happen if there weren't any benches. I might might have to try that as a test at some point. Remove all the benches and see if they work any harder because there's nowhere to sit. Now she's just come out of her house, the lady in the red skirt, and she's gone to sat down at the bench. Yep, and she'll sit there for a bit. The guy just collected some thatch from the thatchery for the new cottage. So they've obviously got to the point where they're starting to build the roof, put the roof on now. And you can see the first deliveries that being made down by the river to the boat for the boathouse. Fishing is another one of those seasonal jobs where, because the river freezes over in the winter, you can't fish. So at the moment, it doesn't make sense to leave men on the fishing task all year round. You might as well take them off as soon as winter sets in December. And then you have to remember to put them back onto fishing in March when the river thaws. I'm not sure if you didn't do that, whether the fishermen would actually act as labourers in the winter. I don't know if that happens, or whether they still keep sitting in the fisherman's hut, sort of swapping stories instead of working. And whether you still have to pay them, of course, I'm not sure. Haven't been playing the game long enough to know the answers to all those questions. It's quite interesting. Everyone seems to be wandering around a lot, um, but lot of the wandering around doesn't seem to be very productive. I mean, they're not carrying something. Oh, he's going to put the roof on the cottage. There we go. There we go. 3 stages to the roof building. That's the first one. Second. And that will be the final stage, and then you get the little bing to say the property is finished. Yep. So there we go, a new cottage. And I'm just checking, we need food for sale, more food for sale before anyone's going to move into that property. So I'm going over now to, well, basically, I won't get any more food to sell until those crops are harvested, and that's not going to be for several months yet.